Another sign Jesus gave for the last days, famine. Do we have people still starving in the world today? Absolutely. And in some places, it's hard to believe. I've stood in South Korea and looked over the border into North Korea, and the people are starving there. At times, it's been so bad that reports have come out of North Korea that they've resorted to cannibalism because they've got this crazy despot there who is grinding down his people. Famine. Jesus said there'll be famines in different places, and this is the beginning of sorrows. Approximately, there are 3.5 million people in the world who are starving. Many are malnourished. 10,000 people per day starve to death. A lot of that is caused by war. Some of it is caused by drought. Put that fact together with this fact that of the world's population here it says 5 billion, that's a misprint, over 6 billion, 60% are malnourished, 20% are starving. Now, couple that with the fact of what's happening with the population explosion. Just this week, CNN released a report that those that study the population growth in the world, they're calculating by the year 2050, there will be a 40% increase in the population. It'll be 9.1, and much of it in some of the poorest countries of the world. You know, it took over 5,000 years to get the first billion people in the world, and then it only took about 130 years to get the second billion. I remember when there were 3 billion, and in my lifetime it's doubled. That's really something to think about. If this many people are starving, Jesus has to come. I will self-destruct. Pestilence in diverse places. Of course, we already know about the spread of AIDS, and I still don't think that people in North America understand what a problem this is, but I've been to Africa and other parts where the numbers, the percentages of people that are struggling with AIDS is terrifying. It really is a problem that has gone all across the culture. And SARS. There are new strains of very contagious diseases that are becoming resistant to antibiotics, and tuberculosis and some other things are on the increase. Jesus said one of the signs of the last days would be violence. He said, as it was in the days of Noah. What does it say about the days of Noah? Thoughts of men's hearts were only evil continually, and violence filled the earth. Do we have problems with violence? You know, I am, of course, very concerned about the situation in Iraq at the time of this broadcast. We have a boy who's in the Marines, a daughter who got mustered out of the Army just recently. But the reality is more people die in 4 or 5 American cities every day than die in Iraq from violence. Have you considered that? Gangs killing each other. A lot of it is because we're perpetuating what we see. Speaking of the last days, for me, one of the most incredible signs that we're living in the end is this prophecy in Daniel. I've given you some from Jesus, some from Revelation. Daniel chapter 12, the end of the book, last chapter. The prophet there says, the angel actually says to Daniel, but you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. What is the subject here? Time of the end. Many will run to and fro, and knowledge will increase. Well, not only does that mean in the last days people will go to and fro through the Bible, here a little and there a little, but let's face it, people are going to and fro faster than they ever have. When you think about it, it's mind-boggling. There are people who are watching this program right now who remember when there was no such thing as a calculator watch, a digital watch, no such thing as an airplane. That's right. I've got a church member still alive. I used to be her pastor. How old is she? 106? 107. And she still has all of her wits. And if Viola's watching, bless your heart, Viola. Can you imagine living through that kind of, my grandfather died in 93 not too long ago, living through World War I and II, and the incredible changes in knowledge that have transpired during that time. Mind-boggling. Can you say amen? Remember when radio, television didn't exist. And now we take all these things for granted. Somebody was saying, I thought this was interesting. You know that you're living in the 21st century when you accidentally enter your password in the microwave. You have a list of 15 phone numbers to reach your family of 3. Sometimes people call and they ask me my number, and I kind of cycle through 2 or 3 numbers before I realize, well, I'm not even giving the right one. You used to just have to remember 7 digits for your phone number. You email the person who works in the desk next to you. You're laughing because you know it's true. Your reason for not staying in touch is you don't have your friend's email address. You pull into your driveway and call your spouse on the cell phone to see if they're home. The prophecy about knowledge increasing. You notice he didn't say wisdom will increase? Because even with all this accelerated knowledge, man has still not learned how to love his fellow man, has he? And we're using our knowledge not only for good, but also for destructive power. You know, I thought it was fascinating this week. I'm a pilot, and I was intrigued by Steve Fawcett's recent accomplishment. Just made history, what, yesterday, 2 days ago? Yesterday. Yeah, this is a current meeting. Flew around the world. One man breaking records. My dad was in the aviation business, and I remember him telling me one time he had to fly by himself from Hawaii in a DC-3, and he said it was the longest trip of his life. He was ferrying a ship back from Hawaii to California, and it just seemed like, I can't imagine flying around the world. I saw this not too long ago. Honda's come out with a new robot, a Simo. Is that how you say that? This new Honda robot. And they've got it now not only where it'll walk around and wave and it can do some very simple functions, but they're developing these robots that now they've taught a Simo to run. He can only run. I think he runs like this. But that takes, you know how much computer programming, you like the way I did that? You know how much computer programming? Actually, you can go online and watch them run. You know how much computer programming it takes? What we do so simply to develop a robot, but that's scary. I mean, all it can do is you can say, come here, Asimo, go. And he can either walk or run, but that's about all he can do at this point. I think he can grab things and carry things around. But and then, you know, the International Space Station. It says, many will run to and fro and knowledge will increase. Are we living in that day? This is the century that has seen knowledge explode exponentially more than any other generation that has lived in the history of man. I believe this is the generation that's going to see the coming of Jesus. Can you say amen?